Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 80 of the review show, where each week we have a different story to talk about. Could be a manga, could be a comic book, could be a movie, TV show, who knows? We rate it, we watch it, do what we have to do, come back here and talk about it. My name is Kyle Springer, and I am joined by Melissa Wilkinson. Melissa.
Yes.
How are you this week?
I'm good, Kyle. How are you?
There was a legitimate crazy person at the bus stop today. So he was like a real life Uncle Ruckus from the Boondocks.
That's the Boondocks, correct?
Melissa,
okay.
Have you seen that show, or do you at least know the cartoon?
I have, but not for like 10 years.
Okay.
I didn't remember any of the characters' names.
Good. You've at least seen the show. Yeah. So that was strange. It was just a weird thing. It's like, okay, I don't want to deal with this. Let's move on. Let's go somewhere else. But here we are. We are recording on a Monday night instead of our usual Sunday morning.
Rare.
You were gone all weekend. What did you do?
I went to Chicago to go see a live podcast. I went to see my favorite Good Boys podcast, The Ride, which is a very specific theme park. It's a very specific podcast, and that's a comedy show all about theme parks and themed entertainment. And they did a 2-hour episode about a local mall.
That's amazing. So
it was a delight.
That's good. I'm glad you're back, though, so we can make our show, and we can be the good boys and good girls for other people.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yes.
See us live.
There you go. I'm trying for a positive message, kind of. Anyways, let's see. We are here talking about Harrow County, volumes 1 and 2 this week. I'm excited to talk about this one. We are continuing our horror month. We have been watching a bunch of spooky stuff and reading some spooky comics. And this was one of the ones that I pitched to you last week. So right off the bat, why did you pick this one? What stood out to you about this?
I Googled it and I was immediately sold on the artwork. This is a gorgeous book. This is, I think, one of my favorite books we've read from a visual standpoint.
Okay. Interesting. Good stuff. Yeah, the artwork stands out. It's I don't know how to describe it yet. A lot of the colors are watercolor, it seems.
Yeah.
But there's a layer of inks on top of that don't necessarily make it look all entirely watercolor and stuff like that. It's very unique, but it has this style that I feel like really, really fits like the time period it's depicting, the type of horror that it is. It's a weird combination, but it works so well. So yeah, I think the artwork is absolutely stand out in this book. Now that we've read it, what do you think?
Oh, it's real good. It is exactly as creepy as I wanted. It's so grotesque in a really delightful way.
Very much so. Very much so. I think for me, this is at least my favorite thing of the horror stuff that we've read so far. I think this was actually the scariest one for me. Of course, last week here on the review show, we covered Paranorman, which is a much more family-friendly kind of spooky movie you can watch on Halloween or have on in parties and stuff like that. Um, but then, I mean, we've also done Bram Stoker's Dracula and American Vampire, and neither
Hmm.
like of them were really scary to me. I guess Bram Stoker's Dracula was the scariest of like the
Yeah.
we started off with a bang, but even then it's
Hmm.
kind of old enough where it's just like it's
Yeah. How
cheesy
can I be scared
effects,
when
right?
Keanu Reeves is here?
Yeah. Keanu Reeves can save me.
Hmm.
um so I don't know, like it didn't hit the right things to scare me, but this absolutely did. I was very spooked by this book. So,
Yeah, I think the only thing in our history that stands up against this is the part in The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina where those witches turn her dad into a tree.
yeah. Yeah,
That's something I still remember from a year later, but the entirety of this book is like that moment sustained.
exactly. I think that was one of the books that we read last Halloween for our
Yeah.
horror month. Um, but yeah, so that like this book really stood out to me because of all of that. I think even the way it's written, but we'll get into all of that in just a sec. Let's do a brief synopsis,
Hmm.
and then we will get into some housekeeping, and then on to spoiler territory for the book. So let's see. Plot wise, this starts out. Do you remember when most of the book kind of takes place? It seemed like it was in the 30s ish. I don't
Yeah,
remember if it
I don't
gave
know
a
if it ever
specific date.
timestamps it, but I would also guess the 1930s. And it's
Yeah,
in Virginia?
I
Do they
I
specify?
I don't remember. I took it as a New England
Yeah. It's
town. We
approximately around
could
there
be
in
wrong
this
with
like
that, but
very rural farming community. Like they do talk about there being a sea, like a fisherman's town not too far away, but we never see it.
okay. Yeah, yeah. So it's set during that time period, but we start the book kind of with a little bit of history, and we get this story
Hmm.
about a witch who was in town. And at first, the townspeople really liked her because she was helping out. She was healing the sick and stuff like that. But then they started noticing the other weird things that she would do and some of the side effects of things that were happening around town. And they started to get really scared. And in stereotypical puritanical fashion, uh, that they decided she's a witch, we need to kill her. And so they do, and they're extremely scared. They hang her, they shoot her, they slit her throat. It's like a lot, and they lit her on fire. It is
Yeah, she gets the whole Rasputin treatment.
it is overkill. Um, but it starts out with that, and then our main character wakes up, and it seems to be that she is kind of remembering all of that in a dream. And our main character's name is Emmy. She's a young girl. She is 17 years old. She's about to turn 18. Um, and some weird things start happening around her. And she doesn't necessarily notice at first, but then there's some things that start to be like, okay, this is happening all too fast,
Hmm.
and it turns out she might, in some way, be related to this witch. So there you go. Do you
Hmm.
think for plot synopsis that about starts it off well?
Yeah,
Cool.
that's a good basis. It takes a real turn from there that I quite like.
Yes, it does take some nice twists and turns. Um,
Hmm.
But let's get into a little bit of housekeeping, and then we'll get into spoilers, and we can start talking about the book in full. I mentioned last week here on the review show, we covered Paranorman. I highly recommend that film. Go check it out. It is perfect for the family for the month of Halloween. All October. Go check out our other shows on our website, which is the whatnauts.com. We have the Captain's Log, we have the Reactor Core, and we just launched a brand new podcast called Crossplay, which is a weekly video game show. So we'll be talking about some of the latest news as well as the games we are playing. And stuff like that. So be on the lookout for that. We're recording this Monday night. First episode comes out tomorrow morning. Tuesday morning is when that'll be live. So I'm super excited about that.
Yeah. Way to go.
That being said, if you like what we do, patreon.com/thewhatnauts is where you can support us for as little as $1 a month. You guys can get access to the live streams of this show. You can get episodes early. We have a bunch of exclusive content at the $3 tier on our Patreon. And we also would like to give a big shout out to those of you at the $5 tier. So thank you to Sam and thank you to Christine for helping us out. We appreciate you and love you lots. So thank you.
Thank
Melissa, let's get into spoilers. All right. There we go. Oh, I do want to kind of mention one more thing. I know our streams as of late have been kind of choppy. And yeah, and that's unfortunately there's not much that I can really do about that right now. I believe it has to do with me upgrading my Mac to Catalina, and OBS does not launch in Catalina, and I'm using some weird workaround to make that happen. So it's barely getting there. It's enough where it's like we can put it up. It looks fine enough, but it's not up to our usual par, which even then, my Mac is a piece of shit, and it's not all that fantastic. But we are trying, and we are chugging along. That said, let's get on to spoilers for real this time. Melissa, where do you want to start with this book?
I think I want to start with that twist I alluded to earlier.
Okay.
Which is when Emmy figures out maybe I am the reincarnation of this witch or the daughter of this witch. I have her powers. I have her control. Everybody believes this makes me just like her, that I'm going to turn into just the same monster she is. And she's running through the forest, and her own father is chasing her, trying to kill her. All the townspeople are trying to kill her. She finds out, like, the local pharmacist was, like, a cult worshiper of this witch, and he's trying to help her, but in, like, a weird, twisted way.
Yeah.
She's so upset by all of this. And at this point, I'm expecting her to keep running, for there to be some climax where, like, she lashes out and she hurts somebody, or she, like, gets people on her side. I expected this to be a battle, and no, she walks back to her own house. She says, hey, I do have her powers. I'm not a monster. I'm in control of me. I'm a whole new separate person.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do this. And, like, some people lunge at her, and she, like, vaporizes them with her eyes, and she's like,
who's
if
next?
you come at me again, that's what I'm going to do to you.
Yeah.
But I'm not a monster. I am going to keep living like normal. If you think I can help you with my mysterious witch powers, go ahead, come to me. I'd be happy to help.
Yeah.
I'm not a monster. I'm not going to do what she did. And that's how book 2 starts. I love that she's just, no, I'm going to keep living like my normal life. And it kind of turns into this almost like episodic thing when I was expecting this big, dark, supernatural adventure. Instead, it's like, no, I still live and work at my farm. And when there's a goblin up and, It's like eating too much grain, local grain silo. The farmers will call me and I'll go up there and I'll talk to the goblin.
Yeah. And by the way, her name is Beatrice, and she likes rotten
Drusilla.
fruit. Oh yeah. Um, yeah, I thought that was a fascinating take, because I think when I pitched this
Yeah.
to you, I thought it was not necessarily an anthology, but just like each volume was kind of its own self-contained story. I think that's what I had in the back of my mind. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if that's what my pitch made it sound like. Um, but I was expecting something like that, and then reading volume 1, I was like, oh, it's not that. This is gonna be some big
Mm-hmm.
long story, a grand adventure. She's,
Yeah.
all of that, and then yeah, by the end of volume 1, it basically leaves it back where it was almost, and it's like, okay, well, we'll
Mm-hmm.
see what happens next week, right? And it's like, okay, so it's kind of episodic, but not. I'm sure like stuff is
It's like
gonna
the
come down, like come
yeah.
into play down the road, and it is gonna be one big long story, but not in the way that I thought it was. But it's not the anthology thing that I thought. It's like a mix of both of them.
Yeah, the after you finish reading the first volume and she makes this decree to the townspeople, you realize, oh, this isn't like the first couple chapters in this ongoing dramatic story. It's like, oh, this was the end of the pilot. This is
Mm-hmm.
setup. And
Yeah.
it's almost like weird witchy mystery of the week after that, kind of. Not exactly, but kind of, which is not what I was expecting from this book. Like, there's a lot of neat things about it. But I think that surprise was my
Mm-hmm.
favorite.
Okay.
The fact that Emmy understands and asserts herself so quickly. And the townspeople are like, okay, let's try it.
Yeah.
You can just be our local live in witch, I guess. Like, a lot of them are still terrified of her, but they're like, well, we kind of have to do what she says.
Yeah. So I do want to mention that we read this, or at least I read this on Comixology Unlimited. I believe you did too,
Yes.
Melissa. So
Mhm.
in the single issues of the comics, most of them were accompanied by backup stories that we did not get. It says,
Mm.
let's see, I'm reading off of Wikipedia here. Tales of Harrow County. Most issues of Harrow County include Tales of Harrow County backup stories. This extra material was not collected in the trade paperback
Mm.
editions, but they were collected in the hardcover library editions after the series was complete. Let's see, the one-page story Lovelorn was accidentally left out of Harrow County number 31, so Dark Horse Comics debuted it as a free comic online. Yeah, so it
Mm.
seems like there was just these one-shot, like 1, 2, maybe 3-page comics at the end of this that maybe gave you a little bit more insight to who these other characters are. And stuff like that. I thought that was neat, but I just would like
That
to
is
mention that
cool.
we did not read those,
Mm.
which is I guess kind of more what I was expecting. Just like, hey, here's a weird spooky town. Here's all the weird spooky things that happen in this weird spooky town.
Like, Emmy might have been our focal character, but there'd be episodes about the side characters.
Yeah,
Like, we'd follow the
yeah,
pharmacist for a whole issue or
yeah,
something.
yeah, something
Okay.
like that. But that's not what we got. Um. So
Like
yeah, so let's
spooky Essex County.
kind of, yes. Um.
Yeah.
So I have to I messaged this to you in Discord. There's
Yes.
this thing. So in the book, there's a thing that after the witch dies, I want to say it's that night or that next day or something. the tree that they hung her on is struck by lightning, and it leaves this big hole
Mm-hmm.
inside the tree, and the townspeople are all scared that it's some sign, and so they're like, we're gonna fill it with concrete or something like that. And so yeah,
Yeah.
and so I get done with volume 1, and I close the app, I open up Twitter, and literally the first thing, no joke, the first thing that I see is a tweet that someone I follow retweeted, and it is a tree that has been struck by lightning and is on fire and has this like giant hole inside it that like the fire is inside it, like it's not like the
Yeah, like the
outside of it.
outside is not on fire. The
It's
fire
only
is
the
just swirling around the inside of the tree, and like there's a big charred scar down the middle of it you're looking
it
through.
looks like a portal to hell. And
It does.
I saw it, and it was just like, okay, one, I'm already reading a spooky book that I thought was the scariest of the ones that we had read, and that's the first thing that I see. I'm like, close Twitter. I am not gonna look at that anymore.
Twitter's too haunted today.
Yeah.
I'm going home.
Exactly. So I thought that was strange, and I was like, Melissa, look what happened.
I got that on my road trip. It was very cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just driving through the Illinois countryside, looking at spooky twisted trees in the distance over these
Yep.
big flat empty plains.
Oh man. Yeah, I was spooked out a lot. So I think for me, what made this the scariest thing,
Mhm.
I so I'm in general not a horror fan. I don't like horror movies. I don't like horror
Mhm.
video games, all stuff like that. Comics I can do.
Mhm.
There's just something about them that I like. I can get like spooked by them, but uh not scared in the same way that a movie will scare me,
Yeah.
right?
Because
Um,
a comic, you can like read it at your own pace and like
kind of,
really
yeah.
stare at the thing and investigate it and look down like every layer of the art and the lettering and everything. Like it's easier for you to dissect a comic, I imagine, than to dissect a movie that's just playing out in front of you.
Yeah, and that may have something to do with it, but I in the horror genre, I think one of the scariest things
Mhm.
to me is when they start to mix religion and stuff in it. And so the
Ah.
whole like Puritans didn't like these witches, and there's the like New England, like that like New England style horror where there was some kind of witch or something they don't know how to explain, and they think it is
Mhm.
evil, right? It is not some monster that someone has created. It is this thing just that they don't understand, and so they label it as demonic. And then it's like, well, I wasn't, but now that you want me to be, I might as well and just get my revenge, right? Like, demons, help me out over here. I got some people that need,
I'm gonna call in the
right,
squad.
right, and like, there's something about it that is there's just kind of this like impending doom or this gray cloud that just hangs on top of it the entire time, and it's all about the atmosphere, and I think this book
Mhm.
has it in spades.
Yes.
And because like nothing super scary really happens in this book. It's just the atmosphere. There's so much atmosphere. The style of writing, the artwork, it just, the kind of
Mhm.
paper that the pages are on, and stuff
Mhm.
like that. Like, it all just works so well to, 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 create the atmosphere within this book, and it's that atmosphere alone. I think is just like they are nailing it. They, yeah, kudos to them.
The atmosphere is absolutely killer, but I think you're underestimating the amount of actual scary moments in this book because we
I
haven't
mean,
even
yeah,
come
yeah.
to Skin Boy yet.
Don't get me wrong. There are some like scary things, but like, yeah, you see Skin Boy, but then like shortly after that, he's like, oh, that's just Skin Boy. He's hanging out with
Yeah,
me. We're playing
somehow
tag.
Skin Boy.
Like, yeah. Right, like they have that moment when they're both like laying on the bed, and they're just like talking as if they're best friends, and it's like that kind of takes the scariness out of it for me. But it's like the fact that he's still there, the atmosphere is still there. Like, yes, there is this sack of skin that is just there that she keeps in her book bag, and then somewhere out there is this person with no skin. Like, just that idea by itself is horrifying. But yeah, like there is just something about it. It's like, oh, that's just Skin Boy. I know him. So
Oh.
poor old Skin Boy.
I love Skin Boy. He's really out there trying. So there's Skin Boy. Well, he's one being split into two.
Yeah.
But I think of it as like Skin Boy and like Muscle Bone Boy. And Skin Boy kind of flaps around and he like whispers things to Emmy. But Muscle Bone Boy, he'll fight for her.
Yeah.
He's a gnarly little fella.
He's literally the muscle. And this guy has no backbone. He's a pushover.
Muscle Bone Boy is, Skin Boy can hear what's happening.
Right. And like,
yeah, he just talks and talks and can't do anything.
Right.
She doesn't have to listen to Skin Boy. What's he gonna do?
But and like to say one more thing about the whole just like, oh, that's just Skin Boy thing. They do make the comment that is almost comedic when she first finds him and is taking him back to her house, and she is just covered in mud and she has all these cuts and stuff like that, and she's like, oh, well, I need to change. And she's about to start like undressing, and then she goes, wait a minute, if I know one thing about young teenage boys, they're gonna try and sneak a peek. So she's like, I'm gonna put you in this dresser drawer and shut you in there. And it like it's like, that to me is just comedic. Like, it's like, oh, yes, you might just be a sack of skin, but you're peeping Tom, I bet you are.
With those eyes you don't have.
Yeah. But then like shortly after that, there are scenes when like he is on the floor just looking up at this ceiling, and she's like standing over him in her dress and stuff like that. So it's like, oh, well, that went out the window. So
yeah, he can just like slither across the floor. There's a part in volume 2 where like she's been out helping her dad on the farm, and she goes back up to her room, and Skin Boy's just like lounging on the bed, and there's like stuff around the room, and she's like, what were you doing all day? You could have at least picked up after yourself.
Right?
He just flaps around and knocks stuff over, and he can't pick it back up because he don't got no bones.
And that, like, that's what I mean. Like, this whole thought of this skinless boy existing is horrifying. Like, that is maybe one of the most horrifying things in this book. But then, yeah, it's like they kind of take that away of just like, oh, that's just my familiar. It's fine. Good old Skin Boy. So, oh well. Let's see. So that I liked. I think of the 2 volumes, well, volume 1 was my favorite.
Yeah, volume 2 is a little harder to follow, but I think that might kind of be on purpose. like this big city girl shows up, and
Mhm.
she is Emmy's twin.
Twin, yeah.
And it's kind of vague, like, how did she learn about Emmy? Where did she hear this? Did her familiar tell her? That's kind of what it seems like, but how did he learn about this? What is this supernatural grapevine where he got this news? And there's a
Yeah.
flashback to shortly after the witch has died and she's buried under that oak tree. And there's this big, gnarled growth on the tree. And all the townspeople are scared of it, so they're going to cut it off. And they cut it open, and there inside is a young girl, like a living young girl born out
Yeah.
of the tree. And they pull her out, and then there is an identical dead girl, like skeletal girl.
Yeah.
And we don't really know which one is which, how, like, it seems like, okay, Emmy's dad took her. Well, I guess it is more clear that he does take the living girl. Who's going to take the skeleton girl home? But somebody did. How else did she get out
Yeah.
there? Who took skeleton girl? Who raised skeleton girl?
Yeah. Let's call her Skelly. um no, like yeah, it's implied that the like dead, or they did they say explicitly that she was dead, or did it was just like, this one doesn't look good, she's all like, I mean, she looked like she was emaciated and like malnourished
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Her skin was more gray, but I remember them saying like, this one looks just like her. And then I don't remember if they mentioned like what they
Oh,
did
yeah, it
with
might
her.
stop there. Yeah, she might be, you know, horrible looking, but alive.
Yeah, but
She's
that
not 100% a skeleton.
because
There's some skin
that
there.
begs the question of, yeah, is that is this big city girl who's claiming to be the twin, is that the one we saw in the tree? Was that girl dead? We don't know
Yeah,
if
yeah.
if she was dead, and if she is the big city girl, does that imply some kind of like reincarnation powers or something where she comes back to life? So what does that mean for the story going forward? Because we think she's dead,
Mm.
or at least, like got sucked back into the ground by the end of volume 2. So like, is she gonna come back? What's happening there? We don't know.
Yeah.
So it's strange. It
Also,
is
I think
scary.
that scene is it's not a direct flashback. Isn't that a dream Emmy has? So who's to say that is entirely reliable? Some of that might be
Right? Yeah.
symbolic and not literally what happened.
Yeah, she does seem to be learning about her past in a fairly accurate way, or at least from what we've seen so far, seems to be accurate. But you're right. We're not sure exactly how accurate that is, but she's learning about her past in these dreams that are coming to her. Um, And that's also a horrifying thing, because she doesn't really mention those to her father. She kind of keeps those to
No.
herself,
Hmm.
and we as the reader get to see them. Did no,
Hmm.
I was wondering if we got any other hints that any other parts of her life were dream sequences or stuff like that.
Oh.
But I don't think we did. I
And
think they were
no, I
usually
don't
pretty
think
clear of
so.
like, hey, this is a dream, but it's not like weird mind trippy dream logic. It's just like, hey, here's this like
Mm,
vision almost of what happened in
yeah.
the past.
Yeah, I don't think the stories kind of going to try to play that kind of trick on us. Like, it's not like she imagined Bernice the whole time.
Woo-hoo.
I do want to
Um,
talk for a second about Bernice because I
sure, go for it.
really liked her. I like when but it's like the night where all the townspeople have decided she's 18 now. This has got to, she's showing too many signs. This has got to be like the reincarnation of the witch. We got to get rid of Emmy. And all this word is spreading around town. And her friend Bernice runs out to try and save her. And like they run into each other in the woods. And Bernice is like, look, I believe you. You know, you're Emmy. You're my friend. You're not this witch. I'm not going to let them kill you. And they wander through, they're trying to like get out of these woods. They wander through this graveyard of like uh, like the undesirables of the community. And then Emmy turns to Bernice and is like, is this why you led me here? And Bernice is immediately like, no, I'm your friend. Like, if you're not going to trust me to think that I'm not going to kill you, I'm just going to leave. And then she's so insistent, like, why do you keep talking to your bag? What's in your bag?
Oh,
Skin
that's
boy,
just
of
Skin
course.
Boy.
Like, I love that Bernice is like, no, I'm your friend. Yeah. That she's like, no, I'm your friend. I trust you. I want to save you. But also, she's really assertive and defensive. Like,
Yeah.
I trust you. Do you not trust me? If you don't trust me, like, I'm just going to leave. Like, she's out to protect Emmy, but she also has her own real sense of self-security going on. Like, she wants answers. She wants trust. She wants other people to believe her. And I like that she also had that going on.
Yeah.
She's a little bit more than just helpful local friend.
Yeah. And it eventually does turn out to be too much for her at a time, right? Where she starts seeing like, oh, you're commanding these like flaming skull people. There's this weird
They're
skin sack
skeletons
in your bag. There's you literally have someone who is your muscle, like about to kill your dad. Like, this is a little too like. Yeah, I don't know if I want to be friends with a witch. I'm just gonna Homer Simpson into the bush here, right?
Yeah, it's 5 a.m. I'm going home.
Yeah. But and at the end of it's end of volume 2, I think, right, where she's like, "Hey, if you still want to be my friend, you can still be my friend." I don't
I think that's
remember
end of
exactly when
volume
that happened.
1.
End of
Because in
volume 1.
volume 2, remember, Bernice comes to visit and then it starts storming. So Pa says,
Yes.
Bernice, you better stay the night with us. And that happens to be the same night Cammy, the twin
True.
girl, arrives.
True.
And like in the night, Cammy and Emmy sneak out. They go look at the oak where the witch was buried. Like they go back and like Emmy wakes up, like kind of not sure what was real, what was a dream. And she goes out to ask Pa where Bernice is. And he says, oh, she left at first light. And then we don't see her again. And it was clear that Cammy did not like Bernice. So there's kind of an unanswered question there of, did she really go home? Or was that just what Cammy told Pa and Pa told Emmy?
Yeah, I felt it was more of a racist thing of just like, why is this
Couldn't tell.
black woman speaking to me with this sarcastic tone? But they don't address that, so it's one of those things. It's like, huh, all right, let's move on, you know.
Yeah, it could be that. That just as likely, it could also be Cammy doesn't seem to have friends. She has her familiar. Seems to be a lot more on her own. So it could have also been she resents the fact
Just
that
not used
Emmy
to.
has this close, trusted friend and confidant who knows she's a witch and is still friends with her.
Right, yeah.
Or maybe, like, here's her time for sisterly bonding with this, sister she's always dreamed of that she's just found. And then, oh, yeah, my friend Bernice has to stay in the night. And she's like, get out of here. This is my time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it could be a lot of things.
Speaking of Bernice, I liked her a lot as well. I thought she was a fantastic character. I mentioned Tales of Harrow County. There's also Tales from Harrow County. And on, let's see, this was very recent. This was last month. On September 10th, 2019, Dark Horse Comics announced Tales from Harrow County, not to be confused with Tales of Harrow County short stories. This is a spin-off series was announced. This series will feature storylines from many different time periods of Harrow County. Misfit City artist Naomi Franquiz is set to draw the first mini-series entitled Death's Choir, with Bernice as the protagonist.
Yes. I do really like Bernice. You're on a solo adventure.
Yeah, that'd be neat. I liked her a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity to explore.
Mm-hmm.
The story is called Harrow County, and there is an amalgamated amount of townspeople. And there's not many of them that we really get to know by name. There's Bernice and her grandfather. There's that man that tries to get Emmy to curse the other man that's looking at his wife, and Emmy won't do it, so Cammy does it. And so to keep the wife from like running away with this younger man, she like disfigures the man, and like he's trying to walk up to the door with a bouquet of flowers for her, and then like flowers are like growing out of every orifice in his face.
Then he starts becoming
that's a good spook.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so there's them,
sure.
that weird pharmacist.
So
I don't know if anybody else gets a name. Like they're all kind of amorphous.
Well, speaking of the townspeople, one of the scary things that I think flies under the radar, especially in a story like this, is that a lot of the townspeople are creations of the witch. Like they're not real people.
Yes.
And so that like
that was a really neat reveal.
It's a neat reveal. I like it. I like how she gave these people free will, and so they like some of them want to serve her, some of them want to like turn against her, and stuff like that. So it's this weird thing where it seems like most of the town is or are people that know about the witch or were made by the witch. It's not really mentioned how many exactly she made. We know that
I think it says that she made 4.
Did
we
she
see
really?
4, and then she makes. I got the impression that it was 4, but these 4 mud people, she like makes them, she like reaches down into the mud and she like molds them and shapes them, and there they are, like a full old human being. Mm-hmm. So
one is they have pharmacist, one is Bernice's father.
Right, exactly.
There's also I don't remember exactly what they say. There was a scene, I think it's the scene at the start of volume 2 when Bernice and Emmy are like reconciling what happened, and I think there's also an implication that Emmy's father was one of them, or she mentioned something along the lines of like, I don't know who she made or what happened. I don't know if my father is real or not, or I'm just caught up in the mix of this. But yeah, I thought that was that like there's these secret agents kind of planted throughout the town. I don't know exactly who they are. I don't
know if all of them are secret.
I just mean
secret agents like, necessarily, because I think some of them
they're not secret.
Yeah, like they might not necessarily,
se, but like I just mean like we don't necessarily know who they are. We don't know what their agenda is, stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know if all of them have an agenda. They're just supernatural folks trying to make a living, and some of them might not know they are supernatural folks. Like Emmy didn't know until she was 18. Oh, I have witch powers. I do like that. I do like these creations she made are full living human beings. Like one of them went on to have a child that went on to have Bernice, and Bernice is like, you're a witch. I'm the grandchild of this sort of earthen creation of a witch. Like, I don't know what that makes me either. And Emmy's like, I don't know. Let's just be weird things together, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Um, I wanted to talk about the writing within
Mm-hmm.
this. I don't know if you read a little bit of the back matter that was in this, but Harrow County
Mm-hmm.
started out as a short novel, or what was
Mm-hmm.
going to be like a serialized short novel. And so it has in the comic book as well. It has this kind of prose feeling. Like
Mm-hmm.
it didn't necessarily feel like a typical comic book for me, and it read a lot like a novel would to me, which I liked a lot. And I think there is. This goes back to what I was saying with the atmosphere. Like, there's something about a book that is supernatural, that is
Mm-hmm.
mysterious, or you can open it up and be transported somewhere else, right? That can you can make that seem happy, or you can make that seem kind of spooky, right? Here is this
Mm-hmm.
book of scary stuff, right? Here's this scary tale. And I think really came across in the writing, and like what was given
Mm-hmm.
detail, or how characters were described, or just these extra little bits of like, oh, now I'm in the forest and look at all these dragonflies. Oh, by the way, my dad
Mm-hmm.
calls these snake doctors. Okay, like, what is a snake doctor? Why is that? What is going on here? That's weird. Why would you tell me that? Like,
But yeah, you're just saying this completely ominous made up term like it's real normal.
yeah.
Like how my dad calls McDonald's clown food. That's on the innocent side of dad nicknames. I don't know about snake doctors. That one's weird.
Sure, or just the mention of like ghosts and goblins and ghouls and stuff, and it's like it kind of I got the feeling that it was using these terms because they will come into play. But then
Yeah.
it also seemed to use a lot of those words interchangeably, which may be the one thing that I didn't like about the writing. I didn't like what is your definition of a goblin, right? Because it seems to be
Mm-hmm.
that all of these kind of supernatural creatures that we see in volume 2 are kind of being referred to as goblins, but one is this like weird
Or
bone,
haints.
yeah, which I'm not familiar
Like
with that word, but
I've heard it before. I know it is another term for ghost, but I don't know the exact like bestiary breakdown of this. Like I don't know what a haint does that a specter doesn't.
yeah, or
I
what
don't know
a
if these are all one-to-one synonyms
ghoul
or not.
does
Yeah.
versus a goblin. So that like on one hand, I liked that they were all used, and all of the creatures within the woods were like all entirely different. Um, and I feel that's going to continue to come into play. We are going to continue to meet creatures. There was that one, I don't know if they gave him a name, but the one who was like, "You forgot me," and then the one
It's
who
a
was like,
it's a manticore. You know. Oh, they call him he looks like a manticore, but his name I think is the
I have
Forgotten.
no idea. Yeah, what that I if you were
I think
like,
they only call him that in the back matter and like the sketchbook they say, and here's early drawings of the Forgotten.
if you were to be like, Kyle, draw me a manticore, I would be like,
Yeah.
which Pokemon is that? I
You
don't.
know, it's man, but he's got like kind of the like steer horns. You know, he guards the center of the labyrinth. A manticore.
Yeah, no, not ringing a bell. Um,
It's like kind of like okay. No, we saw one in
he did.
Gravity Falls, so it's got like I don't know.
He just looked like a
steer legs,
demon.
but a human man torso, and then like steer head. Like it's like a man Oreo sandwich, but instead of chocolate cookies, it's like a bison or something.
Like that just seems like a demon. I mean, that's what I would describe it as. Like that one looked
Could be
like a
classified as such, yeah.
demon, whereas the what was her name, Priscilla, that was up in the granary, that to me
I'm like a
could
little
have been
bat
a,
girl.
yeah, that was a goblin to me.
Mm-hmm.
But then the like mysterious mud creature that wants the bone juice,
Oh,
I
juice.
don't know what that would be. That's a
Yeah, I'm
monster.
not.
Like I
That's not something I'm familiar with, and I'm curious how many of these are 100% original, and how many of these,
are
like the
based off of
harpies we
some.
see briefly,
Oh yeah,
are some sort of folklore from somewhere.
yeah. That'd be neat. I'd be interested to
Yeah,
find out all of that stuff, or
yeah. If
where
we're out on the East Coast,
where the
we could
story
get a
of the
Jersey Devil,
skinless boy
a
originated.
Mothman.
Yeah, something like that. Um, yeah. So I thought the writing was spectacular and fit this book
Mhm.
extremely well. We kind of mentioned the artwork. I mentioned what the like style of paper that it was on, and of course I read this
Yeah.
on Comixology Unlimited, so it was not on paper. But the original
Mm.
artwork was not drawn on like white paper, like your typical white comic book
Yeah.
paper. This looked more like parchment or some,
Mm.
like it had this like faint marble like texture to it. Um, and that, yeah, it makes it look older. It looks like something that the Declaration of Independence would be written on, right? And
Yeah.
again, like that just harkens back to that time period and the
Mm.
types of paper that they had, and it just adds to this whole thing of just like, oh yeah, this is, they're nailing the atmosphere. It is so good, so good.
So Cullen Bunn is from St. Louis.
Oh, okay.
And so I kept reading this. Hmm. I kept reading this book knowing it's set in New England for that witch background that I don't think really got out here. I don't know if Missouri was Missouri while there was still a witch panic. I don't know if that got to us. I kept thinking, like, what would the story be like if it was set here in Missouri? Like, how
Mm-hmm.
much would transfer? Could there still be a witch panic here at that time?
Sure.
And the setting of it, like not so much the cultural setting, but the landscape of it reminded me of Missouri a lot. Not so much in that it's like, oh, we have trees like that grow in our climate as well. Like,
Mm-hmm.
not down to that specifically, but my grandparents had this farm growing up out in the middle of nowhere in central Missouri.
Sure.
And it was down in this valley. Like their driveway was a quarter of a mile long to get down into this valley to where the house was.
Yeah.
There's just fields around them and a big ring leading up to the hills, like nothing out there. There was like you could see one or two other houses like in the distance up on the hillsides. And it's pitch black out there because
Oh
there's no
yeah.
lights. There is one like light on a telephone pole directly outside their house, and the wires stretch all the way to the road a half a mile away, and that's where the next light is. So
Mm-hmm.
it's black out there. And we're in the middle of this house, and the house all brightly lit. They're watching TV, all the lamps are on and so brightly lit, but it's pitch black outside, and all you can see is your own reflection back at you, and occasionally if like a bug flew real close to the window you could see it illuminated.
Yeah.
And it was always so eerie to me growing up because you could see clear all the way out when the sun was up, but the second it gets dark it's nothing, absolutely nothing. So
Mm-hmm.
anything could be standing out there
And you just
12
wouldn't
feet
know.
away. Could be an axe murderer, could be a bear, could be an alien, all kinds of things.
Could be
But it
Skin
could
Boy.
be, could be feet away from me, and I'm staring directly out the window, and I cannot see it. 2 hours ago, I could have seen it, but now I can't.
Yeah.
I really think a farm is that might be my favorite horror movie setting. Not woods, but farm. You gotta have a field in there. Don't be all
It's
surrounded by
it's
trees, because
so
anything could hide in
isolated,
trees.
right? Is
Yeah,
especially
yeah.
that, like, if you're talking about that time period where they're still on wagons and stuff like that, yeah, like your neighbors might live a couple miles down the road, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's that isolation of just like, if some shit happens, if something goes wrong, there is no one to like hear you or help you or stuff like that. You're
Yeah.
on your own. So
And early in the first volume, Emmy talks about the quiet that
mm-hmm.
settles down on the house. And it's not just like, oh, there's Pa being kind of stern and standoffish and he's just reading and he's not talking to me. It's not such a social familial quiet. She talks about how the quiet settles down on the house almost like it's this other living thing. The
Yeah,
quiet is so quiet, it's alive, which is definitely something I've felt before out in the country.
absolutely, absolutely.
Mhm.
um I don't know if I have much else to say about these two volumes that we read. I know we only read the first two volumes, but I think the first three or four are on Comixology Unlimited. So if you want to continue rating this, you can. I know the series ended last
Mm.
year in 2018.
Oh.
So it says there's only 32 issues, a total of 8 volumes, 4 library edition volumes. I guess that would be a larger size, maybe, and like a 2-in-1.
Yeah.
So you get the first 2 volumes in one. But yeah, I think this is maybe so far one of my favorite things that we've read this year
Yeah.
or watched. I think this is a fantastic one. Good stuff.
Mhm. Mhm. Some of the most affecting artwork I've ever seen. I think the watercolors really do it a service because they're a little mud. They kind of bleed into each other, and then they take like the white gouache.
Mhm.
It's a word I've only ever seen written down, but it's that. You're an art boy, do you know?
It's I've always heard go wash.
Gouache. Okay.
Yeah.
Like they take that white gouache and then paint it over that as like the last layer. And so it makes everybody's eyes really pop.
Mm-hmm.
So when somebody looks scared, they really look scared in this book. Like just
Yeah.
the way everybody's eyes are drawn is outstanding. This is visually so good and narratively, like it exceeds at everything it's trying to do, I think.
Same here. Same here. They knocked this one out of the park for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, let's see. Do you have anything else that you would like to talk about with this book? Oh, let me ask you
Ah.
this. Where would you like to see this
Mm.
book go? We've only read the first 2 volumes. What would you like to see? I mean, the book is obviously done, as we just mentioned, but what are you expecting there to be in the rest of the series?
So Emmy has just turned 18 and she kind of jokes about like going up to town and like finding herself a man now that she's a woman of age. And I'm really interested to see her try that sometime. Like,
Okay.
how
Yeah.
do you approach romance when you were a witch? What kind of boys do you like? Who is going to be the mate that this story could introduce for a character like Emmy?
Yeah.
I'm very interested to find out whoever that guy might be.
Okay.
Totally normal. Also, some sort of a spook. Let's see.
Yeah. Who knows? It's a Skin Boy's older brother or something, right?
Big skin boy on campus.
Yeah. I would did we ever find out what happened to the other familiar, the like butler dude guy?
Um,
It's
I
escaping me
I
what
don't
happened to him.
exactly know. I don't know if I followed exactly everything that happens in that last battle between all of Emmy's spooks versus all of Cammy's spooks.
Yeah. Um I would just I like the bigger story aspects of everything that is happening. So I want to know, yeah, like we mentioned that like supernatural grapevine almost like
Mm-hmm.
how did what was her name? Kimmy? Yeah, Kimmy.
Yeah.
Um how exactly did she find out about her? Who told her?
Yeah.
Um yeah, is it just that news was getting around, but that doesn't
All
necessarily
the way
make
to New
sense
York
because
City comes word that there's a witch girl somewhere.
yeah, like that seems too far. What happened to Shaky? He's out there somewhere. The pet cow.
Oh,
Will the forgotten ever have another picnic? Who knows? We may never know.
oh,
Uh,
one more unanswered question in this book.
uh-huh.
It mentions that the witch, Hester was her name, right? That
Yes,
one of
Esther
the
Beck.
terrible things she was doing around town that made the locals turn on her because she had the ability to like kind of fix things and heal things, and they abided by her for a while. Like, we're going to allow you to be here because you can like make a fever go away, but then like crops are blighting, animals are being born deformed, etc. One
Mhm.
of the wicked things she does is she had unholy congress out in the forest, and she's boning down with that manicore.
Yeah,
Is that like Emmy's dad? Who knows?
maybe,
Or
maybe
maybe the witch just reproduces asexually, like those lady dinosaurs in Jurassic Park.
something like that. Um, I would, I would even be interested. I just forgot what I was gonna say. I had it. You reminded me of it as you were talking about this guy. Oh, the idea of consequences for her magic, right? If she is healing
Yeah.
people and if she is wanting
Yeah.
to help, because the older witch did that too, but
Hmm.
then there were side effects, right? There was this, oh, well, then a bunch of cattle would die the next day, or
She'd have
they'd
to
get
like
sick
eat
or
a
something.
baby for energy or something like that.
Yeah, Red Bull babies. Um, but like, what are the consequences of her trying to be her own person? Is
Yeah.
is more cattle gonna die? Is there gonna be a string of babies born in town that are like incredibly deformed or something?
Oh,
Will it just start to drive people insane? And maybe that one guy who was like, "Hey, that one dude is looking at my wife strange." Maybe he wants to then go kill someone else. Like what? And then it starts this thing of
yes,
just
take
like,
care of my business rivals also.
yeah, right. But I mean, not in this sense of like, hey, you should murder them for me, but just like this idea of like, this thing is somehow affecting him and driving him mad, and he's acting more and more rash and stuff like that. Like they bring up the idea of consequence, and I think even in a more realistic sense, like when you as a person are trying to figure out who you are and who you want to be,
Hmm.
right, there are consequences to that. Hey, I want to go after this job or this passion, and maybe that leaves me with not enough time to hang out with you. I'm so sorry, we used to be
Hmm.
friends, but we're just gonna lose touch now. Like you have to end
Yeah.
up making life choices like that. How is that going to affect her? now that she is a witch and all this stuff, and there might be real life consequences and magical ones too. We don't know.
Yeah.
I would like to see that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Melissa, if you could
Yes.
recommend some stuff to people who liked this book, what would you recommend?
Definitely The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina.
That's a
These
good
are
one.
very good books to kind of read with each other, I think. It's got the similar, like, it, teenage girl with blonde bob haircut discovers she has mysterious powers and
On
is a
their
dark
18th
adventure in the
birthdays.
woods.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got that similarity to it. I think the art in Sabrina, I don't know if it was also watercolors. I forget exactly what it was, but it also had a very tactile,
Mm-hmm.
physical feel to it. And there were times when the paper looked like it was almost water damaged or something. That
Yeah.
also looks really cool. It's also written with the same kind of narration to it. Like there's a bit in Harrow County in volume 1 where where Emmy and Bernice are in the graveyard, and then all of those burning skeletons like rise up from the ground, and they try and get Emmy, they try and communicate to her, not that way, don't go that way, but she can't understand them, and she goes that way anyway. And the narration's like, Emmy would think back on that night and realize later what the skeletons had been trying to tell her, and she wished more than anything she could not
Yeah.
go that way. That really reminded me of this one bit in Chilling Adventures of Sabrina where the narration is like, if you are the sort of person who prays, pray for Harvey Kinkle, as
Yeah.
he's running through the forest being chased by devil worshippers.
Yeah. I think that is definitely a good suggestion. I would suggest Rachel Rising by Terry Moore. We read Strangers in Paradise a long time ago. I don't remember what episode number it is, but we covered it here on the show. And Melissa, I know you liked that book a lot. That's by the same person. Rachel Rising
I like
is...
Strangers in Paradise.
Yeah, I believe all of Rachel Rising is on Comixology Unlimited. And it's fantastic. The artwork is incredible. It is a similar kind of New England style witches thing,
Mm-hmm.
like strange things are happening. We don't really know. But it's about a girl who wakes up and realizes that she died and has been dead for like
Ooh.
2 weeks or something like that. She, or not 2 weeks, she still has the strangle marks on her neck and stuff like that. And so she's like
Ooh.
trying to figure out who she is, what happened, and it all gets like entangled into the like the history of the town that she's in. And
Mm-hmm.
that goes back to like the Salem witch stuff, and it's like it reminds me a lot of this book too. So I would highly recommend that.
Mm.
That being said, I think that about wraps us up for this.
Yeah.
Melissa, I believe we have one more week left in our spooky Halloween Town stuff. What do you got for me
Mm-hmm.
this week?
I have 3 movies. These are all more direct horror movies. Like we've been covering this month. We just did, this was very spooky, but like the movies we've been doing, Bram Stoker's Dracula is more of just like the lush gothic
It's
romance
theater,
tale.
and
And
there's thespians,
yeah, and
and
Paranorman was like a family friendly, like kind of Halloween adventure. So I wanted more legit
okay,
horror movies.
sure,
So I have a friend who's really into horror movies, and I came to him like
God,
2 years ago saying, I've seen some horror movies. I really like them. I really don't know much about the genre. And he's like, okay, what have you seen? I'm like, I've seen some of the big ones like The Shining and The Exorcist and The Blair Witch Project. And he's like, have you seen The Thing? No? Okay, we have to start with The Thing. And
I
he and
know
I have had
that's a
like,
classic
a
one.
dozen or more horror movie nights over, the last couple of years. The Thing is the one we had to start with.
Okay.
So that's pitch number one.
The Thing.
Horror classic, especially since you don't know very much about horror. I thought I would pass this along to you.
Sure. Good
This
stuff.
is John Carpenter's The Thing from 1982. A research team in Antarctica is hunted by a shape-shifting alien that assumes the appearance of its victims. Just top-notch creature effects, amazing transformations,
Good.
so much fun to watch. This is a practical effects delight for your eyes.
Good stuff.
This stars Kurt Russell, Wilford Brimley, and the guy who was the voice of the gargoyle on Gargoyles.
Okay. Fun stuff.
And pitch number two is a more recent horror movie that this friend showed me last year. And I think we watched it a little bit after Halloween. So I wasn't able to pitch it last year, but as soon as I saw it, I'm like, I have to remember this for next year, because I'd like to talk about this with Kyle. This is a 2014 horror movie called It Follows.
I'm
Have you heard of this one?
I'm not. I mean, I'm familiar with The Thing too, but I am familiar with this one as well. I kind of know the plot or the synopsis of this one.
Mm-hmm. So this teenage girl has sex with a boy at her school, and then he tells her, I've just passed on to you a supernatural curse. There is a mysterious specter that takes the form of anyone, and it will pursue you very, very slowly, but it will never stop. It will follow you for the rest of your life. You will always look behind you, and it might be blocks away, but you will always see the specter coming after you the rest of your life, unless you have sex with somebody else and pass this along to them. So it's got this kind of teen urban legend story to it, with also this real and very mysterious supernatural threat. And what I like about the story, about the movie, and about the way it's directed is that the movie is kind of unstuck in time, where you can't tell if this is set in the past or if everybody is just way behind the times. Like all the home decor, all the clothing, all the cars, everything looks like it's 20 years old, and you can't really tell why. And because of this, it really reminds me of Napoleon Dynamite. This is, if you took John Carpenter's Halloween and Napoleon Dynamite and put them together, you have It Follows. It's a really interesting film, beyond the base synopsis for it and that wacky premise.
Okay, I was actually just listening to a podcast earlier today that was talking about this film. They weren't covering it in any way, but they got on a tangent about this film, being like, yeah, we could totally set up some weird Discord channel where we're all just having sex with one another, and it's just going to be a big orgy, but you have to find people in different countries so you could go to them to pass it on, which would give them a lot of time, because that guy just has to walk the entire way to get to the so they have all the time in the world, and then they go fly once he gets there to go fuck someone else, right?
Yeah, it's also kind of got the Gremlins thing where there's some rule in place that makes the supernatural thing work, and you spend the whole movie trying to figure out how to outsmart the rule.
Yeah, just at what point does he just give up and be like, God damn it, stop making me go across the goddamn ocean. It's back and forth, back and forth. Okay, good
Pitch number 3. There is, so these previous two movies I have seen fairly recently. Sure. There's nothing more scary than the unknown. So for the third pitch, I wanted a movie I had never seen and didn't hardly know anything about. And this movie came to me just today. There is a
Mhm.
horror YouTuber I like that recommended this in a community post. And this movie is called Ghost Stories. It is from 2017. It is a British film and it's available on Hulu.
Hmm.
This is all I know about it. And I'm just going to read you what this YouTuber wrote about it.
Okay.
Because I'd like never heard of this movie, and her description alone sold me on this. This movie left my head a bit scrambled. The story revolves around a professional debunker who one day finds himself summoned by his longtime role model and inspiration. That man had been missing for quite some time, and he reveals to this debunker that he announced his work of debunking after coming across 3 paranormal cases he couldn't solve, and now he tasks his protege with doing so. So, this is an anthology movie. It's these 3 separate supernatural stories with this debunker framing device. I don't want to
Interesting.
spoil anything about this film because it's seriously best enjoyed blind. So all I'm going to say is that this movie managed to get under my skin. Maybe it was because the main character has a similar line of work to me. I don't know. This is a woman who does videos on like weird internet mysteries and ARGs and like
Sure.
no, that's not a real scary story. That's a Twitter narrative. The guy's writing the whole thing. That's what she does.
Yeah.
This film isn't a jump scare fest, and from the beginning, there just seems to be something off about it. Something heavy. If you've got Hulu, then you can watch it for free, so definitely do so with the lights off and without distraction.
Hmm.
I'm very intrigued by this premise. I would love to watch a horror anthology so we get like 3 different weird little scary stories. And the framing of this being about somebody who debunks paranormal activities gives me real Black Tapes vibes. I'm
Yes.
feeling nostalgic for Black Tapes.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. Ooh boy. Ugh. I love the premise of that last one.
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling that one's really gonna scare me. Let's do it.
Do ghost
I'm
stories?
gonna hate myself next week, but
No, this is gonna be so much fun. Like, let's really watch. We've read horror comics, but all the movies we've watched have been more like adventurous. Like
yeah,
the what we topped off the Halloween month with last year was An American Werewolf in London, which is mostly just a black comedy.
yeah.
Let's really get scary this time.
Okay.
I'm excited for ghost stories.
Ghost stories. Do you know who it's directed by or anything like
I
that?
didn't look. I did not look this up
Let me see if I can at
because I
least
just read
find
this
that.
post and verified that yes, it was still on Hulu, and that's everything I looked up. I didn't look further into it because, like she recommended, I wanted to go in blind.
You said it was from 2017, right?
Yep,
Oh,
and this
big.
is available on Hulu.
Okay, I'm looking at. Whoops. Go back, go back. Okay, according to Wikipedia, let me at least see if I can find. It is directed by Jeremy Dyson and Andy Nyman.
Hmm.
That is all I will say about that. Yeah, it is a 2017 British horror film. Cool. Written and directed by Jeremy
Mm-hmm.
Dyson and Andy Nyman, based on a 2010 stage play of the same name. Cool. That
Ooh,
is all I will
nice.
mention about that because I don't want to look at spoilers or anything. So,
Mm.
good. There we go. I am excited about all of that.
Yeah,
That should be
let's get
fun.
scary.
So that's what we will do for this next week, which should be, I think, the last one of our horror month this year.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, just putting this out there so we all know it. We can do horror stuff throughout the rest of the year. It's not me being like, I don't like horror stuff. Let's not do horror stuff because I'm a big crybaby.
No, we
Um,
have done other horror stuff. Like just in the last couple months, we
yeah,
watched Annihilation and a show literally named The Terror.
yeah, yeah. But we typically don't do theme months except for Halloween, when we're just like, let's just do
Yeah.
spooky stuff. So, okay, that is what we will be doing for this next week. Go like, share, subscribe, do all that stuff. You guys know the deal. Melissa, where can the people find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at WilkyWit. That's WilkyWit.
And I am at Yo Kyle Springer on Twitter and Instagram. You guys can find us at the Whatnauts on Twitter for all of our updates. And we will see you next week with Ghost Stories on episode 81. This has been episode 80. We will see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you all so much for checking out that show. We hope you liked it. Let us know if you guys read Harrow County and what you'd like about it down in the comments below. We would appreciate that a bunch. In the meantime, go subscribe to our channel, which is right up here in this corner, and go watch one of our other podcasts right down here, because we got a whole lot more where that came from. Besides the review show, it might be an entirely different show altogether. Who knows? But with that, we will see you guys next time.